There are times when our justice system hits a home run. The cops catch the bad guy, the prosecutor convicts him, and the judge puts him behind bars. But in the case of a Miller County man who confessed to the rape of his infant daughter, many are saying the system struck out. In 2009, a 5-month-old girl spent 10 days in University Hospital in Columbia, Missouri, after being brutally assaulted. A sexual assault response team went to authorities after examining the infant and finding signs of sexual abuse. Aaron Michael Fisher is the victim's father. He lives in the rural Brumley area of Miller County, Missouri. He was arrested, and a few years later, he confessed to the crime in open court. Authorities have handwritten and audio recordings of the confession. But this week, he was released from jail after 6 years of legal proceedings when Cole County, Missouri Judge Patricia Joyce said he had been denied his constitutional right to a speedy trial. The judge's ruling came 1 month before Fisher was scheduled to stand trial. County Prosecutor Ben Winfrey inherited the case when he was elected last year. By that time, it had dragged on for 5 years, with multiple jury trials scheduled, then canceled. Winfrey says many of those delays were the result of Fisher's own attorney, or Fisher himself. News of his release lit up social media, with some calling for vigilante justice, while others want Judge Joyce to lose her job. But for one family, the worst thing about Fisher's freedom is the fear that he might do it again.
Just a week after a man who admitted to raping an infant walks free, we're now getting a better understanding of what led the judge to make that decision.
It's a story we've been following since the judge made the ruling last week. Aaron Fisher was accused of sodomizing and beating a 5-month-old infant in 2009. However, after 6 years of processing, a Cole County judge threw the case out, saying his right to a speedy trial had been violated. The judge says she was just following the Constitution.
Daniel, Judge Pat Joyce said in her order for this case, quote, "The courts have a duty to uphold the rights of every citizen in the United States and Missouri, no matter the cause." Now, let me take you through her synopsis of this case step by step based on the records. It started, of course, in 2009 when Fisher was taken into custody with no bond set. Now, for the next 14 months, the case was delayed 3 separate times by the state. Then in early 2011, Fisher actually filed a handwritten request for a speedy trial. His hearing was set for 3 months later, but when it came, Fisher asked for a continuance, delaying the case even longer. Now, for the next 3 years, up till 2014, there were 4 more delays, but in those cases, it wasn't recorded which side asked for them, whether it was the prosecution or the defense. Also, not in the records was any mention of Fisher's request for a speedy trial.
If there was no record made of who asked for the continuances, that factor would not be held against the defendant. I think it would probably, when a judge would be analyzing it, would have to hold those things against the state, since the state is the entity bringing the case.
Now, last year in 2014, Fisher, of course, filed a guilty plea, but that plea was overturned and the case was assigned to a new judge. That judge recused themselves, which put the case before Judge Joyce, who, of course, dismissed it. Now, Miller County Prosecutor Benjamin Winfrey is in contact with the State Attorney General's office to appeal that decision.
Thank you, Joe. And we also reported last week that several lawmakers have come out against Judge Joyce's decision. Representative Rocky Miller tells us an investigation is underway to evaluate Judge Joyce for impeachment.
I'm William Holtz with Lake TV, and we now have the privilege of being joined by the adoptive parents of that victim. Understandably, it's been an unfathomable 72-hour roller coaster for you guys. How are you doing?
Disappointed.
Frustrated, mad, angry, and disbelief. We've been trying to get an order for protection for our children since we found out about Judge Joyce's ruling on Friday night, and she ruled to have Aaron Fisher released to the public. We've hit roadblocks everywhere we go because in order to fill out an order of protection, we have to give our children's names, and when the adoption was finalized, we changed their names and we changed their social security number so he could never contact them again. And we have not been able to do that.
Tonight, a mid-Missouri group with a mission of keeping abused children safe is joining others in criticizing a Cole County judge. We've reported to you Circuit Judge Pat Joyce set admitted child sex offender Aaron Fisher free this weekend.
Yeah, Joey, this group might not fit your standard image of groups that look out for children, but Bikers Against Child Abuse is a nationwide organization that escorts children to and from court to face their abusers. Sometimes they'll even pay for therapy. I talked to two local members tonight who tell me their group is outraged by Judge Pat Joyce's decision to let admitted child rapist Aaron Fisher walk free. This past weekend, they tell me the news of an admitted child rapist going free hit their members hard. And it was even harder for them to understand when they found out a judge put the rights of an admitted rapist before those of the child victims.
You know, after somebody admits to something this heinous, and they have that testimony that he admitted to it, and then slowly but surely the process gets skewed and somebody starts asking for delays and you know, continuances and things like that. We see this all the time with defense attorneys. It's classic. You know, they do it for a multitude of reasons, to hope that the child forgets exactly what the guy looks like, or they forget some details of the case or what have you. This one just drug on way too long. And like I say, you know, now there's a 6-year-old child out there that has to live with these memories. And now not only is the child out there, but so is his abuser or her abuser.
And they went on to say the scariest part of this case is the fact that Fisher could even get a job at a school or a daycare, and the law will protect him if anyone would try to deny him employment because